Can you imagine breaking a bone from just sneezing or tripping on the sidewalk? It happens. And no, it's not just old age. It's what you're doing or not doing right now. Today we're breaking down the worst things that can secretly weaken your bones and that might be right in front of you. Click the like button if you're for strong bones and subscribe for more science-based health facts. Hi, I'm Dr. Jake with another fitness fact video. No hype, no outlandish claims. Just solid health information from peer-reviewed research. Unexpected question. Does meth make it easier for your bones to break bad? Yes or no? Put your answer in the comment section. Without knowing it, things you do every day, and hopefully not meth, may be quietly crumbling your bones. In no particular order, let's dive into the worst things you can do to your bones. Smoking decreases blood supply to the bones, interferes with the bone-building osteoblast cells, and reduces calcium absorption. The result, more bone loss than bone building, leaving the bone susceptible to osteoporosis and fracture. Smokers have up to a 30% higher risk of hip fracture and a delayed bone healing after a fracture. Even passive or secondary smoke is linked to a reduced peak bone mass. The good news, giving up the puff seems to reverse the effects of smoking and improve bone health within 6 weeks. And smoking is good for nothing. You may have heard drinking soda is bad for your bones. Their sugar, caffeine, and acidity can reduce calcium uptake in the bone and remove more calcium through the urine. But wait, cola drinks with their phosphoric acid are even worse. It removes calcium while dissolving bone strength, kind of like Mentos in a Coke, but without the geyser. A meta-analysis found a small but significantly lower bone mineral density in children and adolescents who consume more than 3 to 4 soft drinks a week, and not just colas. Doing so blunts peak bone mass that occurs around age 30, which increases lifetime fracture risk and early onset osteoporosis. Many people substitute sodas for milk, which compounds the damage. The take-home message? Reducing soda consumption, especially colas, in children and teens means better bone health in adulthood. Alcohol brings with it 3 strikes against your bones. It disrupts the ability of the liver to activate vitamin D, which is critical for calcium absorption. It inhibits the osteoblast cells that build bone, and it increases parathyroid hormone, which accelerates bone reabsorption or breakdown. The result, a greater fracture risk and delay in fracture healing. This is why skeletons who drink are on a path of self-destruction. More than 2 drinks a day is associated with reduced bone formation, especially in postmenopausal women and men over 50. But abstaining turns things around and improves bone formation, while vitamin D, biphosphonates, and antioxidants may offset alcohol's damage. Just sitting around literally puts less mechanical stress on the bones and weakens the cellular signals that stimulate bone growth. Skipping impact activities like running, jumping, or resistance training constitutes neglect of skeleton responsibilities, punishable by removal of bone from said skeleton. A systematic review found that extended sedentary behavior lowers bone density, especially in weight-bearing regions like the spine and hip. In adults, more than 8 hours of sedentary behavior per day correlates with a higher fracture risk, while in children and adolescents, more than 2 hours of screen time per day has been linked to less bone mass being laid down as they grow. The fix? You only need about 30 minutes of brisk walking or strength training per day to prevent sedentary effects on your bones. Excess sodium from salty foods or foods with hidden sodium increase calcium loss in the urine, which can weaken bones, especially if you're not getting enough calcium from other foods. Chronic high salt intake can also cause low-grade acidosis. In response, your body pulls calcium from the bones to neutralize the acid, leaving your bones weaker. Fast food, canned soups, processed meats, and packaged snacks can contain more than 1/2 of your daily sodium in one serving. In fact, most people eat double the recommended sodium limit, unknowingly melting their bone strength away. While some studies showed no association, high salt's connection to high blood pressure and cardiovascular disease makes it something you want to avoid anyway. Click on like if you've learned something new, and subscribe for more interesting fitness facts. Also not good for your bones? Caffeine. Sorry about that. Caffeine can increase calcium excretion, but it can also reduce calcium absorption by limiting vitamin D activity. Plus, caffeine can negatively impact the growth plates in long bones, possibly limiting bone growth in children and adolescents. And it can break down articular cartilage in the joints, increasing the risk for osteoarthritis. More than 300 milligrams per day or 3 to 4 cups of coffee may produce noticeable effects, particularly in people with low calcium intake. So far, no studies on if the nervous activity from drinking too much caffeine strengthens bones, but I wouldn't count on it. So if you're a coffee lover, make sure you get 1,000 to 1,200 milligrams of calcium per day from calcium-rich foods and beverages. Protein's not just for muscles, but it's essential for collagen production, the framework inside bones. Not enough protein lowers the bone mineral density at the hip and raises the risk of hip fractures in older adults. Therefore, older adults should aim for 1 to 1.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day, which can reduce the risk of hip fractures by 11%. Not enough calcium and vitamin D leads to osteopenia, osteoporosis, and increased fracture risk, particularly in children, postmenopausal women, and older adults. The fix? Calcium-rich foods like dairy, leafy greens, almonds, and fortified foods. For vitamin D, sunlight, fish, and fortified foods. And if those aren't on your yummy list, who are you, Winnie the Pooh? A meta-analysis found that a calcium and vitamin D supplement reduced all fracture risk by 6% and hip fracture risk by 16%. Diets that cause rapid weight loss reduced estrogen, leptin, and insulin-like growth factor, all of which are important in maintaining bone mass. This leads to bone loss, particularly at the hip, increasing the risk of fragility fractures later in life. Calorie restriction diets can also lose lean muscle mass, which strengthens and protects bones. One study found that even a 10% loss of body weight over a few months caused a significant loss in bone mass, and this was not fully reversed when the weight was regained. Combining calorie restriction with exercise may help maintain or even improve bone mass, particularly in older adults. Red flags to your bones: low-calorie detoxes, juice cleanses, and any low-calorie plan without attention to nutrients. Some common drugs interfere with calcium absorption, reduce bone formation, or increase bone breakdown. Examples are corticosteroids, protein pump inhibitors used to treat heartburn, and selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors used to treat depression and anxiety. Always talk to your doctor about bone health monitoring and possibly adding vitamin D, calcium, and biphosphonate if you're on long-term therapy. Not a medication, methamphetamine reduces osteoblasts, preventing bone remodeling and increasing the risk for osteoporosis. If you don't want your bones breaking badly, check out my other videos in my Bone Health 101 playlist. Oh, and also, don't do drugs or smoke. Drop a bone emoji in the comments if you learned something new today. Subscribe and then share with someone who needs to know what not to do for their bones. Thanks for listening, and as always, my answers come from peer-reviewed research.